Hey guys, I wanted to share with you just how differently every game is that you play in the Survive It All Rocky Mountains Edition board game. Even when you're playing the exact same scenario, the adventure, the storyline can come out completely different. And you come away with a different experience every time. And I want to do that by sharing some of the stories that we've had in playtesting already, and using the scenario Winter Whiteout, which is one of our most well-developed scenarios at this point. It's a scenario where you and your friends were cross-country skiing backwoods. You got into some trouble, each of you lost a ski, and you have to make it 10 miles back to the yurt, and then making an additional 20 miles to get back home. The problem is it's nighttime's approaching, the snow's really deep and you don't have your skis anymore, so traveling takes longer, takes twice as long, and there's a big storm moving in at midnight. You don't have time to make it to the yurt, so you have to decide what you do. We've had a number of different scenarios. One of the first ones we had, I played it with Karen Hood and Norseman from the survival boards, and Norseman's family, so some of his children as well. And we had a great game. We built shelter in the night, everybody worked together, we got back to the yurt. Something really fun that happened that game was Norseman's son, he decided he wanted to hunt deer. And you start out with a 10% chance of doing that on the D10 die, you roll it, and if you get a 1 you get it, and everything else is a failure. And so he didn't get the deer, of course. Well, he drew a card called Persistence, so that every time he tries something, the same thing again, he gets a plus 10% chance. And so we got back to the yurt, and he's like, I'm going to hunt that deer. So he rolls the dice, he doesn't get it. Well, the third time he happened to roll a 2, and he got deer for the whole party, and he just thought that was so cool. We didn't get to finish our game, unfortunately, and I think he was a little sad. He wanted to, he had felt like he'd really accomplished something. Another game we played with some friends, and these guys, we got back to the yurt, and the weather was pretty moderate, and so but somebody drew a condition card called Full Moon, which mentions, in the title that you hear a wolf howl or something, and he says, well, if I hear a wolf howl, that means there's a wolf and I want to go hunt it. So we said, hey, okay, but we assigned him a penalty if he failed, like the wolf attacks him or something. Well, he had all these hunting bonuses stacked up, so he was going to go do that. Before he did, I was like, hey guys, I probably need to go get home right now to my wife. I've got work in the morning. I'm saying this in game, that so I'm like, I'm heading out of here while the weather's good. So I took 2 of the cross-country skis and made my way home. Well, these guys went and did their thing. They hunted until each one of them had a wolf hide to wear, and then they dismantled the yurt to make stuff for their sled, a covering for their sled. And as soon as they did that, the weather tanked, and it got so cold out. And then one of the players, I think he sprained his ankle, and then he drew a loss of morale card. So he couldn't even, the sprained ankle made it so he couldn't travel anymore, I think, and the loss of morale made it so that he didn't do anything for a turn. So his friends had to put him on the sled with all this wolf meat that they'd gathered, and they had to drag him back. And they almost died of hypothermia because they didn't make the choice to get out of there when the weather was good, which I thought was just a great experience. My wife and I played the exact same game, so this is the same game every time that I'm talking about here. And she was concerned. She wanted to stay comfortable out there, and man, the weather just hit rock bottom. It was as cold as it could be. I think got to like negative 25. So I mean, it was just lots of thermal energy loss every turn. But because my wife had focused, she had picked the wool blanket survival card. We had the flint striker. We were able to make fires. We built shelter. We stopped every time. The whole progression through the game, even though the conditions were terrible, we survived in comfort. And it was funny because when we reached the yurt, she goes, "Oh, well, I'll just cook up some of the emergency food that they have here." And I said, "There's no emergency food there." She's like, "Yes, there is. There's some yurt out in the middle of the woods for skiers. There's somebody's gonna have left food there." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you're right." So, I mean, can't say no to that. So, you can see just, I mean, in those three scenarios, what a variety of experiences can happen. The weather can change. You can get different condition cards. People can decide to do different things, and that's what makes it fun.